and welcome to Plowing the Past. In these videos, guests who have shaped New Holland, Pennsylvania's agricultural history will be interviewed and asked to share their experience. My name is Kendall Moats, and I am a student at Ithaca College, majoring in integrated marketing communications and minoring in journalism. Throughout my high school career, I did graduate in 2023, but throughout high school, I was involved in the FFA as a member, the Sentinel, and president for 2 years. Additionally, with that, my senior year, during the 2022 to 2023 school year, I was the first New Holland Fair Queen. So I have a lot of experience with the FFA and New Holland agriculture, and I hope within these 20 to 30 minute interviews, we get to interview people that have shaped New Holland's history together and learn more together. Today, it is my pleasure to be interviewing Dr. Herr, a key player in the start of Grassland FFA. We will take the time to discuss history of the Grassland FFA and New Holland agriculture itself. So let's welcome Dr. Herr here with me today.
Great to be here, thank you.
Yes, for sure. Would you just be able to give us a brief overview of your time before FFA and then during and after? Maybe make it a little short and sweet, if that's possible.
As far as my early days go?
Yeah.
Well, I came from a farm in the Millersville area of Lancaster County. Agriculture was always the center of my interest, and it maintained that interest throughout my life. I've been around a long time. I'll be 92 years old this August, and I've seen a lot of agriculture, I've seen a lot of education, and particularly in eastern Lancaster County.
Okay, wonderful. Now, what shaped your agriculture interests? Like, what was the moment that you were like, this is going to be something that's part of my life for almost 92 years now?
Well, I always had an interest in agriculture, and I always had an interest in working with kids. And when you combine those two things, agriculture and education kind of came to the forefront. And so in my early years, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I always wanted to be a veterinarian growing up. I shorted myself. I always figured I didn't have the brains, the time, or the money. And as it was, I might have shorted myself a little bit because in getting my ag ed doctorate, I probably used the same amount of money, brains, and time that I would have used there. So always, my advice is always shoot for your goal and then follow up. Don't ever short yourself.
That's a great thing to take away from this video. Now, what was your high school experience like? Were you involved in the FFA? What did that look like agriculture-wise in your involvement?
I grew up on a farm in Lancaster Township. Lancaster Township did not have a high school. And so they offered their students at the 9th grade level to go either to one of 3 schools. That would have been Penn Manor, or Manheim Township, or McCaskey. And all my siblings went to McCaskey. I would have probably gone to Penn Manor and taken the ag course, but they were full and they did not accept it. So I ended up going to J.P. McCaskey High School, graduating in 1950. And that was the education high school education that I received. They did not have agriculture or FFA, and so I was not exposed to that as a student.
Okay. And then what did college look like for you? Where did you go? Could you state your major again, and just what your interests were, if there were any clubs you were involved in?
Well, I did decide to go to Penn State. I graduated from McCaskey in 1950. I enrolled at Penn State at the main campus in animal science, and I graduated in 1954. I was very active in the participation up there, taking part in the Little I International, where I was reserve grand champion. I was president of the Penn State Block and Bridle Club. I was on the meats, wool, and livestock judging teams. So I took good advantage of that area, particularly the animal agriculture of it.
What was your favorite event to compete in while you were up at Penn State?
Well, I would say the judging team, traveling all over the United States.
Okay.
And that was before I entered the agriculture education field. I was in animal science, and after graduating from Penn State, I took a job at Plowing the Farms, the largest Angus farm in Pennsylvania, as the assistant show herdsman until I was drafted into the service.
Thank you for your service. I was unaware that you did that. So how many years did you serve? And then would you be able to tell us what life looked like after agriculturally wise? Because the Grassland FFA startup would have been after that, I'm assuming.
Well, I was a draftee in the Army. I spent a year overseas. I married my sweetheart at Penn State, and she was over with me. We lived on the academy while I was over there. After serving in the service and my discharge, I looked around and decided what my loves were and what direction I wanted to go. And I figured that I liked working with kids. I liked working in agriculture. So why don't I go back to Penn State and get certified and get a degree in Ag Ed and my teaching certificate? And that's what I did.
Okay. So what did getting your degree look like at that point? How many years were you in school? You were obviously living up at Penn State. Were you still in a dorm? Were you living with your wife at the time?
We had an apartment up at Penn State. I enrolled in the GI Bill, and I did receive my Ag Ed degree, which was on top of my animal science degree, and then my teaching certificate. And then the decision came of what I was going to do. And I had two choices that I boiled it down to. I was going to go into the meat inspection corps, where I'd be stationed in Washington, D.C., or I would go into agriculture education and start teaching agriculture.
Okay.
So I made the decision that I would like to teach agriculture. And so that's what I did.
Seems like it was a good decision, right?
I think it was, and I don't regret anything that I ever did for it.
Wonderful. Now I'm seeing here that you taught a couple years at another high school before coming to start the program at Garden Spot. Could you just tell us a little bit about that experience and then how you used that experience to develop all of the impacts you made on Garden Spot's FFA program?
After I did get my Ag Ed degree and my teaching certificate, I decided that I would go out, and so I accepted a job at Boyertown for a year, and that's where I started my, before that I did my student teaching at Van Peter Strasburg, which was under George Meyer, who was a great cooperating teacher. And so after my student teaching and my degree, I accepted a job at Boyertown teaching agriculture there.
Okay. Now, when you made the switch to Garden Spot, why did you come to Garden Spot, and what was really the push to get a chapter started there?
Well, I stayed at Boyertown for a year. I was not happy there. They were a long-established chapter. They seemed to be kind of in a rut as far as exploring new opportunities. And so I accepted an assistantship at Penn State, and I went back and got my master's at Penn State during that time. And at that time then, I wanted to teach. I knew I wanted to teach. And since I worked in Lebanon County at Plowing Farms, Annville was starting a program, and I really wanted to teach there. And so I put in an application there. It seems like the area supervisor knew and wanted us. The school, the principal, and everybody wanted me. The secretary placed my application in the file and never did get back to me. And in the meantime, Eastern Lancaster County was starting a program at Garden Spot High School and contacted me through Mr. Simon, the superintendent, and I ended up accepting that position.
Okay. Now we're getting to the good stuff, the stuff that I'm interested in knowing as well. So your experience at Garden Spot and starting that ag program, who were some of the key players in starting that program along with you?
Well, to start with, the administration was very supportive, and in the line of the superintendent, Mr. Robert Simon, and the principal of the high school, Don Schaefer, and they were really pushing. They made me feel welcome and really want the job. The challenges were unbelievable there, and so when Garden Spot was looking for an ag teacher, Mr. Simon, the superintendent, went to one of the county ag teachers meetings and met with all the ag teachers, which is unheard of before with a superintendent going out. Told them that Garden Spot was having a program, they were looking for a teacher, and was anybody interested, or did they know of anybody? And my cooperating teacher, George Myers, was obviously the teacher there at that meeting, and he suggested that you look at Bob Herr. He's currently a student teacher at Lampeter, and he'd highly recommend it. And so they followed up on it, they interviewed me, and I did accept the job there.
Okay, wonderful. Now, starting the program at Garden Spot, it was very, very new, obviously. What were some of the struggles that you encountered with starting a new program in terms of recruiting or just doing different events with the program, with other chapters in the county? What did that look like?
Well, I certainly had the administration with us, and I knew that there was a history of problems getting the high school in, because they did take the land at eminent domain. There was a lot of bitterness on both sides, in the school board, etc. And when I came in, the dust was pretty much settled. And so I intentionally or otherwise didn't know too much about the past history, and didn't want to, and didn't know who the sides were of it. So I came in kind of as a neutral individual, wanting to start a program which other people wanted. And if there was some bitterness of starting the high school, I was not part of it. The biggest obstacle perhaps that I might have came upon as an ag teacher, the prevailing opinion of Eastern Lancaster County was they have the best farmers in the world, and they really don't need anybody teaching them how to farm. And so I came in under that sky, so I'll have to work around that a little bit and prove myself.
Yeah.
I did have the advantage of being a teacher that had my military service behind me. I had a little more maturity. I specialized in a segment of agriculture, which was animal production. I had a wife we were expecting, and so I had pretty deep roots to put down that a lot of ag teachers coming in, young people, would not have.
Now, there were a lot of relationships with agribusinesses in the area that were key to supporting Grasslands FFA startup. Would you be able to tell me what agribusinesses were key to helping you guys be, amazing as it is today, in my opinion?
Well, as you know, New Holland is the center of the ag business area. And I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but when I took my leave to get my doctorate, 117 businesses contributed money to a fund while I was gone at Penn State to be used just to make my journey there a little easier. And that showed the appreciation that the community had for me when 117 businesses would contribute. And I think the underlying purpose there was to make sure I came back. So that was a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, seriously. I
had a great relationship with New Holland Machine Company, which you pretty much date yourself when you call it that. Went on to be Sperry New Holland and many other things. They were involved heavily with the high school, They had members of their organization on the board, and they told the administration for that they wanted to have a good agriculture program. And a lot of the people in New Holland machine were very supportive. I can think of Larry Stromey, who was Vice President of Engineering, sat down with me at one point and told me that the Iowa FFA started in his living room, and he was quite proud of that. And many others were all FFA members, and so they really thought of the Ag Department as part of an appendage of the machine company.
I'd love to hear that. Now, I wanted to ask this. I know personally, but a lot of people don't. So for people in the area, the Grassland FFA, that name.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have Lampeter Strasburg, that is Garden Spot FFA. They were chartered before us, which is why we couldn't get our Garden Spot FFA name. So how did Grassland FFA come about? Where did that name come from?
Well, we started the Ag program with 17 students in the 9th and 10th grades. And of course, I did my student teaching at Lampeter Strasburg, which was always the Garden Spot chapter. And they were there a long, long time, so we knew that we could not have the Garden Spot chapter. So I remember at our first meeting, it came up, what are we going to call the chapter? And grassland farming was always a big thing identified with New Holland. And when there was a number of other names thrown out to the FFA meeting, and I think it was Bobby Freeman or one of them, our first president, that mentioned, what about the Grassland FFA? And everybody seemed to think, well, that they're certainly giving us the help. They're identifiable to that. And so as a result, we, on our first meeting, decided our chapter would be the Grassland FFA chapter.
Wonderful.
And it's been that way ever since.
Now, I didn't know this, but those 17 members that started out, they were just 9th and 10th graders?
The Ag Department, they wanted to be successful. Mr. Simon, the superintendent, and the school board decided when they brought me in that I was only going to be teaching 9th and 10th grade.
Okay.
And that would take care of the morning, and in the afternoon they were going to have me free to start an adult farmer program, young farmer program.
And that was my next question.
And the school, the high school, originally had me teaching science for 2 classes in the afternoon. And I remember Mr. Simon saying, no, we want to start a program. I want him to be free to start it. We want an adult farmer program, and this is the opportunity to do it. So they took away my science class before school ever started. I started with the morning with the 9th and 10th graders, 17 of them. And in the afternoon, I started what was the beginning of the Young Farmer Program in Garden Spot. And contacting farmers, young boys that already passed, and that was the start of our adult farmer program.
Okay, great. And I'm also seeing here another program that you had was the elementary agriculture program, where every 6th grader had 1 hour of agriculture instruction. Would you be able to tell us how and why that idea came about?
Well, the elementary ag program was only one part of many programs that we did start. We started the supervised work experience with the community businesses. We started the adult farmer program, we started a young farmer program. But the elementary ag program, there was a real need for that. We were an agriculture community, and I remember proposing it to Mr. Simon, and he proposed it to the school board that it was going to be offered to all the elementary schools, of which there was a number of them in eastern Lancaster County, except New Holland Elementary, because they felt that that was mostly town kids, and it wouldn't fit in with an agriculture program. And I guess as a result of that, there was an explosion of the parents and kids at New Holland Elementary School that they needed agriculture as much as anybody. Their parents were involved in the agriculture community, et cetera, et cetera. So as a result, New Holland Elementary was included as part of it also. And so it started out as a very successful program, a lot of interest. We incorporated things like the hunter safety program in it. It was a safety, sanitation, conservation type of program. And I think it was very, very successful. I can tell you many stories of kids that were sixth graders that were involved in it. I remember particularly one kid who now has a landscaping business, but somehow he got into a lot of poison ivy, and he couldn't go to school because of all this poison ivy. So he had his mother drop him off for the hour of elementary ag and pick him up again and take him home. And that was the impact it had on the kids. Just ate it up. They just, it was very successful and kept on going under, I think, about 4 more teachers after I moved on to another program.
That's wonderful. We kids loved it, especially when I was there, when I could see them come for our agriculture days, when we would go to Brubaker Park and they would go around the park and just get to experience a little piece of everything agriculture had to offer, and just seeing the way that they enjoyed different things, or if they said, I didn't like the last station, but I love this one. And I mean, I wish they would like all the stations, but I'm glad they found something that was kind of their niche.
It was very, very successful. There's all kinds of stories that there was. I remember one of the 6th graders was killed in an accident, and in the obituary of the newspaper stated that he was active in the elementary ag program.
That's great.
That was one thing that came out, that they wanted it to be in there, that he was active in that.
It's wonderful. Now, what changes have you seen in the way the agriculture program has evolved over the last 65 years? I mean, I didn't even know about the adult agriculture program. I mean, we have agriculture teachers that teach classes all day. They don't have these programs that block out their afternoon. Some of the programs you have faded out, but we've had new programs fade in. What changes have you seen?
Well, I think that early on we recognized that BOAG was more than cow and corn, that there was agribusiness connected with it, that there was environment connected with it. There was a lot of other things. And I think we were quick to catch many of those programs, like the supervised work experience, where our seniors went out into the industry and took part in a 6-week program out there. Also recognized the adult farmer programs, being 2 of them. We had 2 teachers. One was the adult farmer instructor for the more conservative, and the other was a young farmer instructor, maybe a little more progressive, that were a little younger. So we had 2 full-time programs there. And then, of course, the elementary ag, and then we branched out into the alternative school, which was another form of vocational education, including agriculture.
Wonderful. Now, last question, so we're wrapping up here. What is something that you wish that I asked you that I didn't, or just something that you'd like to throw in there for the people of New Holland or whoever's watching to hear today?
Well, I felt that I was the right person at the right time coming in. There was pretty much ill feeling, and I think the agriculture program did a lot to heal that feeling. And probably one of the most satisfying events happened at, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd meeting, our FFA banquet, which we held, at which Lester Weaver, who had our students in our program, but was a member of the school board when the problems were having, he was against having the school or the school built where it was, and Bob Ressler was vice president of personnel at New Holland. They were the 2 focal points for and against the high school. And on the third FFA banquet that we had, both of those men were invited to receive the honorary chapter farmer degree. And it was the first time that those two had sat down together. They had a cordial conversation. They both received their degrees. Afterwards, they were seen talking and chatting, and Mr. Simon wrote me a letter after that, and he said that that was the highlight of his education, seeing those two men shaking hands and being at the program together and striving for something individually together. So that was a big satisfaction. I wouldn't do anything different. I was here. I retired in 1989 from the program, and I had a good run. I wouldn't do anything different, and I'd recommend any young people looking at agriculture education to move into as a career in the future.
Yes, for sure. What a great way to end today. Thank you everyone for watching. Again, this was Dr. Herr. I appreciate the time that he took out today for this interview. Be on the lookout for more Plowing the Past videos, and we will have more coming your way. Thank you.